I'm Lucas Kitchen. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about John chapter 1, verse 1 through 5. Here's what it says. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through Him all things were made. Without Him nothing was made that has been made. In Him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. John starts his gospel off with a Greek phrase that goes like this. In arche ein ha logos. What does it mean? Let's break it down. In arche, in the beginning. Arche is the same word that we get archaeology from. So in the beginning was the logos. Logos is a little bit more difficult to translate. We translate it into W-O-R-D, word. So in the beginning was the Word. But that's a little confusing. So here, let's back up a couple hundred years and let's figure out what it meant to the readers and the writer who wrote it. 600 BC, Heraclitus writes down the word. He doesn't really use it in a real technical sense, but it's one of the first times we see it in Greek philosophy. People begin to follow suit and they begin to use it. Like the Greek philosopher Plato used it in his allegory of the cave. Basically, he described people as metaphorically chained inside of a cave. We are chained facing the wall, and we can't see anything but the shadows that are on the wall. And those shadows are cast by people outside of the cave who are dancing and having a great time. And the light is coming from the sun, but the word he used for the sun is logos. He would describe it maybe as the source of all good, or the rational principle that, that governs the universe. After him, Aristotle used it just basically as his rhetorical form for logic. Aristotle said there were basically three rhetorical methods for winning an argument. There was ethos, which would be like being emotional. There was pathos, which would be like having a great reputation so people trust you. And then there's logos, which would be like laying out a case in a very logical way. Then after Aristotle, there was a guy named Zeno of Citium who was a Stoic, about 300 BC. He said that the logos was the active reason that pervaded the universe and even animated it. Then right around the time when Jesus showed up on the scene, there was a guy in Alexandria who was actually a Hellenized Jew who said that the logos was basically creativity. One thing that's important to notice is the word logos sounds very similar to the word logic. That's because our word logic comes from the Greek word logos. In English, it's translated as word, and that's because it can also mean word or conversation, or maybe more accurately, the idea behind conversation, or the ideas behind the words. So basically, the concepts in the universe, or the ideas. So here's what's so interesting about this to me. A lot of times as Christians, what we do is we look out at the outside world and we say they don't understand God at all. They don't get it. They don't know anything about God. They just don't understand. But the thing is, John didn't do that. What John said is for the last 600 years, people have been talking about this logos. They've been talking about this rational principle in the universe. They've been talking about this reason, this spoken word, this idea. And what he's saying now is that you are looking into the face of God. You have seen a piece of what God is. Because he says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Although they may have seen a piece of who God is, John goes on to fill in the gaps of where they may not understand. And here's what he says. He was with God in the beginning. Through Him all things were made. Without Him nothing was made that has been made. So he says, through Him all things were made. So he's saying not only do you see God, but this God who you see, this logos, this logic, this is the one who made the universe. And the Greek word here for made is not sort of rearranged. Anytime, let's say that I'm going to build something. What do I have to do? I have to go get supplies. That's not how God creates things. When God makes something, He makes it from scratch. The word here, Gehinnohi, means that it is made from nothing. It is brought into existence. So when it says, through Him all things were made, without Him nothing was made that has been made, what it's saying is that He brought all things into existence. Not only does He arrange them, but He brings them into existence. Then he goes on. He says, in Him was life, and that life was the light of men. Well, this makes sense. If he brings all things into existence, then he must put them together in a certain arrangement that works out to be life. So in him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. So he says that this Logos is shining. It's showing through. You may have seen it in part, but you don't understand it completely. You may have looked into the face of God when you look into logic, when you do math, when you do art. You may have seen a piece of who God is, that creative principle, but you cannot understand it completely. You cannot see it in the full. That light is the light of men. And it shined in the darkness, but the darkness did not understand it. John 1, 1 through 5.